Hey Jordan, I've been following your channel for ages, and today I finally mustered up the courage to share my own experience with you. My name is Sophia. I'm originally from Mexico, but I reside in Canada now, and what I'm about to recount still haunts me deeply, even after all this time. I have an older sister named Mia. She was 22 back then, and I was 16. She was spending her gap year with our aunt down in Mexico, and I couldn't join her because I had to stay for high school. So, we made it a habit to video call every single day to keep our bond strong. But one evening, a Friday night to be exact, everything took a terrifying turn. I was lounging on my bed, just casually chatting with her via video call, when all of a sudden she froze in place. Her eyes grew enormous, fixed on something behind her device that remained invisible to me. I questioned her, "What's going on?" She murmured that over the last several days, she had noticed a guy clutching an umbrella, simply standing motionless outside her window. But then she uttered something that sent a chill down my spine. She said, "He casts a shadow, so it can't possibly be a spirit." I chuckled at her fear, genuinely believing she was exaggerating things. Then she abruptly ended the call. Moments later, she forwarded me a short video clip. I viewed it and convinced myself it was insignificant. I attempted to dismiss it entirely, but in hindsight, I really shouldn't have. The following day, I headed out with my buddies, Lucas, Olivia, and Tyler. We were the kind of teenagers who thrived on goofing off and stirring up minor mischief. That evening, we sneaked to the local park around 11:30 p.m., puffing on vapes and just chilling until Olivia produced a Ouija board from her bag. I felt a rush of excitement. I had always been intrigued by the supernatural, but I had no idea this particular night would shatter that fascination permanently. I initiated another video call with my sister and displayed the board to her. Her expression immediately drained of color. She began yelling at me, insisting that I shouldn't mess with it under any circumstances. I disregarded her warnings completely. I disconnected the call. She persisted in ringing me, but I refused to pick up. Olivia initiated the session. She placed her fingertips on the planchette, that little heart-shaped pointer you slide across the board, and inquired, "Is there anyone present?" Nothing occurred at all. So, in my foolishness, I seized the planchette myself and posed. "Is the man my sister spotted in Mexico a ghost or a living person?" The instant those words left my lips, the Ouija board was wrenched from my grasp. It didn't merely slip or tumble, it was violently jerked away and hurled to the dirt. We all let out piercing screams and bolted back to our homes. My mom scolded me harshly for staying out so late, but my mind was in complete disarray. The next day, the situation escalated dramatically. Lights began flickering off unexpectedly while I was in the shower. I heard eerie voices whispering my name when the house was empty. I awoke with mysterious bruises covering my knees that I couldn't account for. That's when I confessed everything to my mom, spilling every single detail without holding back. She didn't probe with any questions whatsoever. She simply contacted a priest right away. He arrived at our home, performed prayers in every corner, sanctified the entire property, blessed me personally, and following that ritual, all the disturbances ceased abruptly. And to this very day, I still wear a rosary around my neck, that beaded cross necklace many Christians rely on for spiritual safeguarding. I never remove it, not after enduring what I did. Sophia paused for a moment, reflecting on how that experience had reshaped her entire worldview. She remembered the way the air felt heavier that Friday night, the pixels on the screen freezing as Mia's face contorted in terror. The umbrella man, as she had come to think of him, wasn't just a figment of imagination. The shadow he cast made him all too real, blending the lines between the living world and something far more sinister. In her mind, she replayed the video Mia sent, grainy footage showing a shadowy figure under the dim streetlight, umbrella tilted just so, unmoving like a statue carved from darkness itself. Why hadn't she taken it seriously? The laughter that escaped her lips back then now echoed as a regretful mistake, a dismissal that invited chaos into her life. The park outing with Lucas, Olivia, and Tyler had started innocently enough. They were her closest friends, the ones who shared secrets and late-night adventures. Lucas with his easygoing smile, Olivia's adventurous spirit that always pushed boundaries, and Tyler's quiet humor that lightened any mood. Vaping under the stars, the cool night air wrapping around them like a blanket, it felt rebellious yet safe. But when Olivia unveiled the Ouija board, its worn letters and mysterious symbols gleaming under the moonlight, Sophia's curiosity overrode any caution. She had read about such things online, watched videos on channels like Jordan's, but experiencing it firsthand was supposed to be thrilling, not terrifying. Showing it to Mia via video call was a spur-of-the-moment decision, one that backfired instantly. Mia's pale face, her urgent pleas echoing through the speaker. "Don't touch it, Sophia! You have no idea what you're inviting!" Should have been enough to stop her. But teenage stubbornness won out. Hanging up felt like asserting independence, silencing the calls that followed like ignoring a distant storm warning. As Olivia began, the planchette sat still, mocking their attempts. Sophia's grab for it was impulsive, her question about the umbrella man spilling out before she could think twice. The force that yanked the board away was unnatural, a pull from invisible hands that sent it flying several feet, landing with a thud that reverberated through the group. Their screams pierced the night as they scattered, hearts pounding, feet slamming against the pavement. Sophia burst through her front door, breathless, only to face her mom's wrath. "Where have you been? It's way past curfew!" But explanations were futile. Her mind raced with images of the board's flight, the unseen energy that had intervened. Sleep evaded her that night, replaced by a gnawing dread. The escalations the next day were relentless. In the shower, steam filling the bathroom, the lights blinked out, plunging her into darkness broken only by the water's rush. She fumbled for the switch, heart racing, but it flipped back on its own moments later. Alone in the house, voices murmured her name, soft, insistent, coming from empty rooms. "Sophia! Sophia!" Chills ran down her spine, hairs standing on end. Waking to bruises, purple marks blooming on her knees like fingerprints from the beyond, pushed her over the edge. Confessing to her mom was a flood of words, details tumbling out, the video call, the umbrella man, the Ouija session, the aftermath. Her mom's response was immediate. No skepticism, just action. The priest, a kind man with a calm demeanor, arrived with holy water and incense. He moved methodically through the house, reciting prayers in Latin, his voice steady and reassuring. Blessings over doorways, windows, each room purified. He placed his hands on Sophia's head, invoking protection, and as he finished, a weight lifted from the air. The disturbances vanished, leaving only memories. Now, years later, the rosary remains a constant companion, its beads a tactile reminder of vulnerability and faith. Sophia touches it often, especially on quiet nights, grateful for the peace but forever marked by the events. Sharing with Jordan felt cathartic, a way to warn others some doors, once opened, are hard to close. The umbrella man's shadow lingers in her dreams, a symbol of the thin veil between worlds. She wonders about Mia's safety, the gap year that bridged distances but invited horrors. Life moved on, school, friends, relocations, but the trauma etched itself deep, a story she carries like a scar. Expanding on the friends' dynamics, Lucas had always been the protector, checking on everyone after the park incident via texts. "You okay, Soph? That was insane." Olivia, ever the thrill seeker, later admitted her own fears, the board now hidden away in her closet. Tyler joked about it to cope, but his eyes betrayed unease. The group grew closer through the shared scare, vowing never to tempt fate again. Her mom's unwavering belief surprised Sophia. Perhaps she had her own untold stories. The priest's visit included advice. "Faith is your shield, wear it proudly." The rosary, gifted that day, became her talisman. In Canada now, far from those events, Sophia still glances at shadows, listens for whispers, but finds solace in the cross's weight against her skin. Reflecting on 2019, the year it all unfolded, she realizes how innocence shattered. The video from Mia, replayed in her mind, the figure's stillness, umbrella like a prop in a nightmare. Dismissing it was her first error. The Ouija amplified it. Bruises faded, but psychological marks endure. Sharing this, she hopes others heed warnings, respect the unknown. Jordan's videos prepared her somewhat, but reality hits harder. To anyone reading, believe when fear whispers. It might save you. Hey, Jordan. This one still creeps me out every time I think about it. My name is Ethan. Back in 2019, I was working in Seoul, South Korea. I'd moved to a quiet residential area in Mapo-gu because it was peaceful and only a quick 20-minute subway ride into the heart of the city. The place I rented was an older 2-story house, nothing fancy, but it felt cozy enough at first. The real issue was the house right next door. It had this faded red door that looked like it hadn't been painted in decades, completely rusted around the edges, and the front yard was totally overgrown with weeds that came up to my knees. Every morning when I left for work, I'd glance over and wonder how anyone could even walk through that mess to get inside. I knew the house wasn't abandoned because I'd asked my landlord about it the day I moved in. She told me a man lived there, but he only stayed over once a week, maybe once a month at most. The rest of the time, the place sat empty, and she honestly had no idea why he kept it that way. It made me uneasy, but I figured it was none of my business and tried to forget about it. Then one evening, after a long, exhausting day at the office, I was walking home and glanced toward the neighbor's house like I always did. That's when I saw it. A dark silhouette standing perfectly still in one of the upstairs windows, just staring straight at me. I froze for a second, heart pounding, but then I forced myself to look away, pretended I hadn't noticed anything, and hurried inside my own door. Less than a minute later, there was a knock. I called out in Korean, asking who it was, and a man's voice answered that he was my neighbor. My stomach dropped. I really didn't want to open the door. I stood there in complete silence for a good 5 minutes, trying to decide what to do. The quiet stretched on, and eventually, I convinced myself he'd given up and left. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. The next morning, as I stepped out to head to work, my blood ran cold. Scrawled on the wall right next to my front door in bright red, what looked like lipstick, was my name, Ethan. I had no clue how he could possibly know it. The only person who could have told him was my landlord, so I called her right away and lost my temper, demanding answers. She sounded genuinely confused and swore she'd never spoken a word to the guy next door. I wanted to believe she was lying, but there wasn't much I could do about it, so I dropped it and went to work, trying to shake off the unease. A few days passed, and I noticed the weeds next door had all been cut neat and short, like someone had finally taken care of the yard. Then, one afternoon, I actually ran into the neighbor outside. He locked eyes with me and started yelling something in Korean, his tone sharp and furious. My Korean wasn't great back then, so I couldn't make out what he was saying. I just gave an awkward smile and a little wave, hoping to diffuse whatever was going on. But his face, I'll never forget it. Pure rage, like I'd done something unforgivable. I had no idea what I could have possibly done to set him off. Sweat poured down my back as I backed away and rushed inside. It was a weekend a little while later. I usually slept in until noon on my days off, so I was dead asleep when a deafening noise jolted me awake. At first, I couldn't place it, but then I realized it was the roar of a chainsaw right outside my front door. My heart started hammering. Then came heavy knocks. Instinct told me it was him. He was standing there revving the chainsaw over and over, the sound vibrating through the walls. I didn't dare open the door. I yelled that I was calling the police, but the noise was so loud he probably couldn't even hear me. I was shaking, terrified of what he might do if I made a wrong move. He stayed out there for what felt like forever before finally walking away. Not long after, the cops showed up. They talked to him, and he claimed he'd just come over to chat and had been using the chainsaw to trim a tree in his yard. They bought it, apparently, because nothing else happened that day. But that was the last straw for me. I contacted my landlord immediately and told her I was moving out as soon as possible. I'll never forget the final day when the moving truck was parked out front and I was hauling boxes. I looked up at his house one last time and saw him standing in the same upstairs window. He was staring right at me with a calm, creepy smile on his face. In his hands, he held something small and limp like a rabbit, blood dripping fresh onto the windowsill. I felt sick. I threw the rest of my stuff in the truck as fast as I could and got out of there. I never went back. To this day, I have no idea who that man really was or what he wanted from me. All I know is he wasn't just odd or eccentric. He was dangerous, truly dangerous. Ethan took a deep breath as he finished recounting the memory, still feeling that familiar knot in his stomach. Seoul had been an adventure at first, new job, new culture, the excitement of living abroad. But that house in Mapo-gu turned it into a nightmare he couldn't escape fast enough. The red door haunted his thoughts for months afterward, a symbol of something unhinged lurking behind ordinary walls. He remembered the silhouette vividly, tall, motionless, features obscured by the dim light inside. It wasn't a quick glance. The figure held the pose as if waiting for Ethan to acknowledge it. Pretending not to see had felt like the safest option, but clearly it hadn't worked. The knock that followed was deliberate, patient, like the man knew Ethan was home and alone. Standing frozen inside his entryway, listening for footsteps that never came, Ethan had replayed every possible scenario. What if he opened the door? What if he didn't? The silence eventually convinced him the danger had passed, but finding his name scrawled in red the next morning shattered that illusion. The letters were uneven, hurried, the lipstick smeared at the edges. It felt personal, invasive, like a violation of the small bubble of safety he'd built in a foreign country. Calling the landlord had been fueled by pure frustration. Her denial sounded sincere over the phone, her voice rising in surprise. But doubt lingered. Who else could it have been? Ethan had only been there a short time. He hadn't told many people his exact address. The sudden mowing of the weeds added another layer of unease. It was as if the man was preparing, cleaning up his space for reasons Ethan didn't want to imagine. Then the confrontation, outside words spat with venom. Ethan couldn't translate, but the body language was universal. Fury. The man's eyes bored into him, fists clenched, face flushed. Ethan's polite wave felt ridiculous in retrospect, a weak attempt to placate someone clearly beyond reasoning. The chainsaw incident was the peak of terror. Waking to that mechanical growl, so close it rattled the windows, Ethan had pressed himself against the bedroom wall, phone in hand but too paralyzed to dial right away. Each rev of the engine felt like a threat, a promise of violence barely contained by a thin wooden door. When the police arrived, their casual acceptance of the neighbor's excuse only heightened Ethan's isolation. No one else seemed to sense the menace. Moving day brought a twisted farewell. The smile on the man's face as he held the bloodied animal wasn't triumphant or mocking. It was satisfied, almost affectionate, as if he'd won some private game. The rabbit, or whatever it was, dangled limply, crimson drops trailing down the glass. Ethan didn't linger to confirm. He just drove away, vowing never to return to that street. Years later, living safely back in the States, Ethan still checks windows at night, still hesitates when neighbors approach too suddenly. The experience taught him that danger doesn't always announce itself with screams or obvious signs. Sometimes it's a quiet silhouette, a name in lipstick, a chainsaw at the door. Sharing it with Jordan felt like releasing a burden he'd carried alone for too long. A warning to anyone listening: trust your instincts when something feels wrong, because ignoring them can cost more than you ever expect. Hey Jordan, this story isn't mine, it's my buddy Alex's, but every time he tells it, it still sends chills down my spine. Alex and I were juniors at this private college in New England that's absolutely obsessed with the color maroon. Everything on campus is maroon. The uniforms, the flags, the hoodies in the campus store, even the stadium seats. The school started out as an all-girls academy back in the day, and that old history comes with a ton of ghost stories. People say weird stuff happens once the sun goes down after 6. Former students swear they've heard a dog barking in the middle of the night with no dog around, and some even claim they've seen the woman who founded the school wandering the hallways in her old-fashioned dress. One afternoon, we were stuck on campus late working on a video project for class. The building we were in, the old arts center, has always had the creepiest reputation, but I never really bought into the rumors. Seeing is believing, right? While we were editing footage, Alex said he needed to hit the bathroom to fix his hair and asked me to walk with him. I didn't feel like it. The The restrooms are one floor down in this dim hallway, but I went anyway because I wanted to refill my water bottle at the fountain near the faculty lounge. I filled up and waited outside the men's room, scrolling on my phone and wondering what was taking him so long. Eventually, I walked closer to the entrance, and suddenly, Alex came flying out, grabbing my arm hard enough to hurt. His face was ghost white, eyes wide. We bolted back upstairs without saying a word at first. As soon as we got to our workspace, I demanded, "Dude, what happened?" He could barely get the words out at first. Then he told me, "I was standing at the sink, fixing my hair in the mirror. You know how you can see the stalls reflected behind you? There's that one stall at the end that's supposed to be faculty only, always locked. I noticed movement in the reflection, a woman's head slowly peeking over the top of the door. Her hair was pulled back in this tight, old-fashioned bun. I could see her feet in these worn slippers at the bottom, and she had on a long, dark dress that went all the way to the floor. I didn't know whether to freak out or brush it off as his imagination, but the look on Alex's face was dead serious. No way he was making it up. I tried to lighten the mood and joked, "Bro, you probably just saw the founder herself checking in on the school." But it didn't land as a joke. It felt way too real in the moment. We ended up telling a few of our classmates about it later that week. Some were totally into it and wanted every detail. Others just rolled their eyes and called it typical campus hype. But nobody could explain away how shaken Alex looked. No one could fake that kind of fear. A couple days after that, there was an activities fair on the 3rd floor of the main administration building. Alex and I were walking past this long wall covered in old portraits of past presidents and founders. Alex suddenly stopped dead in his tracks and pointed at one of the frames. My stomach dropped when I saw it. Hanging there was an oil painting of a woman in a long, dark dress, hair in a perfect bun, wearing the exact same style of slippers. Everything matched what Alex had described down to the tiniest detail. Below the portrait was a plaque with her name and the year she founded the school, over 100 years ago. That moment made everything hit different. Seeing her face staring back from the wall turned a creepy bathroom encounter into something undeniable. Whether it was actually a ghost, some kind of leftover energy, or just a trick of the light and an overactive imagination, I'll never know for sure. But Alex's expression when he recognized that painting is burned into my memory forever. He went pale all over again, like he was seeing her peek over that stall door one more time. Alex still avoids that building whenever he can, especially after dark. He transferred off-campus housing the next semester just to put some distance between him and the art center. I tease him about it sometimes, but honestly, I don't blame him. That school has so many stories layered on top of each other, generations of students adding their own encounters to the legend. The maroon colors that used to feel like school pride now carry this faint undercurrent of something watching, something old that never fully left. He says the worst part wasn't even the initial sighting. It was realizing later that the woman in the mirror wasn't looking at his reflection. In the story he told me months afterward, he admitted that when he first noticed her peeking, her eyes weren't on him at all. They were fixed on something behind him, like she was watching someone else in the empty bathroom. That detail still keeps him up some nights. Our group of friends split on whether it was real. Half of us became total believers in campus ghosts. The other half still call it coincidence and old pipes creaking. But every time we pass that portrait wall now, we all slow down just a little, glancing up at her painted eyes like we're waiting for her head to tilt or her gaze to shift. Alex graduated last year and moved across the country, but he still texts me around Halloween with the same message. "Tell the founder I said hi if you see her." I laugh it off, but I never go into that building alone after 6 anymore. Some stories you can shrug off. Others stick with you, especially when there's a painting on the wall proving the person you saw has been dead for over a century.